I just found out that my wife has been cheating on me with multiple partners over the past 2 years. My wife and I met about 14 years ago and have been married for about 10. We have two wonderful children, ages 6 and 4. Despite the years, she still remains the most beautiful and intelligent woman I have ever met. She has been my reason for living since we got married. Although we faced some difficulties, we were very happy once. A few years after getting married, we bought a house that we loved, even though it was far from the city center. Life was good until my wife became seriously depressed after giving birth to our second child. To help her, we sold our house because my long commute made it hard for me to help at home, and she also wanted to go back to work. We rented an apartment closer to the city, only 15 minutes from my workplace. The rent was 3 times more than the monthly payments on our previous home loan. Financially, it was a huge burden as we could only depend on my salary, but I wanted to be there for her. Then, just 3 months after the move, the pandemic hit, and we were stuck at home for a long time. My company implemented WFH policies, which made our move feel pointless. Her depression worsened. She tried various ways to make money from home, like selling things online, blogging, and trading, but nothing worked. She also enrolled in courses, but didn't complete them. She felt responsible for not being able to contribute financially. I did my best to support her and assured her not to worry about money. I would take care of us until she found a job she liked. When the pandemic restrictions eased a bit, she enrolled in a business seminar. It takes place every few months, either locally or abroad in another country. The content of this seminar is concerning. I've listened to recordings from past meetings, and the speaker says some truths, like if you keep doing the same things, you'll end up with the same results, while also frequently promoting questionable life choices, like having affairs and living a selfish lifestyle, to say the least. My wife herself admitted the content was garbage, but insisted on attending because, despite this, some of the participants are financially successful people, and according to her, she can seek financial advice and make business connections. She also loves to travel, which is probably the main reason she enjoys going, especially when it's held abroad. The bright side is that she came back from the first overseas seminar motivated to start a new business. On the other hand, she brought the virus back with her that time. We all got sick, and with my children still burning with fever for days, she kept talking about wanting to go abroad the next seminar. I freaked out, and we started arguing, but that didn't stop her at all. That year, she went to 4 overseas seminars, leaving me alone to juggle work, household chores, and childcare for about 2 weeks each time. My kids missed her a lot, often crying and asking why mommy wasn't home for days. Her parents helped sometimes, but it was still hard. They also disapprove of her behavior and kept telling me constantly that she was being selfish. She didn't used to be like this, and that she would stop at some point. She promised she would only go that year, as she had already paid the annual seminar registration fee, which cost over $5,000. The following year, she didn't go, but I could see she was constantly irritated. Despite this, after receiving financial help from me and her parents, she focused on her business, which started taking off after some difficulties, and she's no longer depressed. She also began to contribute partially to our finances this year. At the beginning of this year, she mentioned wanting to re-enroll in the seminar. Hearing this just brought back all the hard memories from last time. We argued. She signed up anyway, promising to attend only the national seminars, which would only take 2 or 3 days at most. Our relationship has been strained since then. Moreover, she broke that promise and is currently abroad at one of these seminars again, although she arranged some childcare this time. Needless to say, it's still been difficult for me and the kids. Recently, she said she feels controlled by me and the kids, and sometimes wishes she could just leave and live alone. The reason: she loves to travel, post-seminar parties are so much fun, and she feels like we're in her way of really living the life she wants. That in reality, there's so many more things she would like to do. It doesn't because of me and the kids. Just to clarify, aside from these seminars, I've never stopped her from doing anything she wants. Honestly, I don't even mind her going abroad. I know how much she loves traveling. I would be more than happy to take care of the house and kids, or even go along with her. It's simply mentally exhausting to be a single parent alone for days while she keeps listening to this so-called financial guru. I've been seriously depressed for months because of this. Despite everything, I still love her, but I feel like our marriage is falling apart. Thoughts of ending everything once and for all have crossed my mind, but I think of our kids and try to stay strong for them. Honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. There are so many thoughts in my head right now. Can I save my marriage? Should I just let it go? Am I being a controlling husband for not wanting her to attend these seminars? Am I just being taken advantage of? Update: I'm in shock and really need advice right now. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and recently celebrated our anniversary. We have 2 wonderful children together. Since the beginning of the year, things have been strange between us. She's been acting oddly since the start of the year, irritated, avoiding me, and we haven't been very intimate. Some days she's happy, others completely irritable. Sometimes she's a great mother to our kids. Other times she wishes they had never been born. Recently, I had to see a urologist for a urinary tract infection, and the test suggested it might be an STD. This was a huge shock because I have never been with anyone other than my wife since we started dating. At the moment, she's at a so-called business seminar, which I mentioned in another post. She's kept journals for over a decade, and in desperation, I read them for the first time. Turns out she's been with multiple partners over the last 2 years. Specifically, there was an affair that lasted over a year, and it seems part of her irritability was due to her lover moving on to someone else. I also found found out she has a hidden Tinder account and has been meeting with other men regularly. I'm devastated beyond words. I feel lost and unsure of what to do, especially since we have 2 young children who mean the world to me. I need some advice on how to handle this situation. Should I confront her immediately? Should I consult a lawyer first? How can I begin to process this betrayal and protect my children through all of this? Thank you for any guidance you can offer in this incredibly difficult time. Update 2. After my last post, my in-laws kindly offered to take care of the kids while my wife was away at her seminar. They remain unaware of the turmoil I'm going through. I used this time to read through her journals and took photos of the content, leaving me in a state of shock and disbelief. I simply don't recognize the person I thought I knew and loved for over a decade. Without going into too much detail, the revelations in the journals would make any movie or TV series pale in comparison. She's been involved with at least 6 different men over the past 2 years. These affairs happened not only during her so-called seminars, but also during short business trips, dinners, and other supposedly work-related events. Meanwhile, I was at home, taking care of the kids, naively believing I was supporting her career. Some entries vividly describe how wonderful these encounters were for her, all while expressing gratitude towards me for being a devoted husband and father without a trace of remorse. This lack of guilt and the extent of her deception make me question her emotional and mental state. As I read through the journals, I felt an overwhelming sense of despair and seriously considered ending it all. In the end, I sought refuge with friends for a few days, feeling I couldn't be alone or I might do something I could never undo. They have been incredibly supportive during this time and helped me connect with a therapist. Now, I'm attending weekly therapy sessions. They also assisted me in reaching out to divorce attorneys. I'm also receiving treatment for my STD. Returning home after picking up the kids from my in-laws was emotionally devastating. I couldn't even manage a smile. At one point, as I was silently contemplating every possible way to end my life, my daughter just looked at me and saw my face. Without saying a word, she simply came over and hugged me. At that moment, I broke down, held her tightly, and started crying in front of her. She's my sweet angel, and the shame of having even considered leaving my kids to suffer their mother's disdain was almost unbearable. In the weeks following the discovery, I could barely sleep and had to rely on sleeping pills just to make it through the night. My motivation was at an all-time low, affecting both my home life and work. I forced myself to keep exercising and found it was the one thing that actually made me feel better during this time. For those who said in the previous post that I shouldn't give up on exercise, thank you. You may have just saved my life. The stress intensified after my wife returned from her trip. Initially, it took all my energy to hide my disgust towards her and the knowledge of her actions. I'm somewhat used to it now, but it remains emotionally exhausting. She's noticed something is wrong. She still seems to believe I have no idea of what has happened. Her lack of shame is astounding. Recently, she asked me to buy her the expensive gift I promised for our 10th anniversary, which I had come up with an excuse to avoid buying. Despite this, she had gone on another business trip day after our anniversary, which was described in excruciating detail in her journals. To make matters worse, she was even planning to meet her newest partner on my birthday. These days, I've started feeling much better thanks to exercise and therapy. I'd never been to a therapist before in my life, and to be honest, I regret not doing it sooner. Despite my wife betraying me in the worst possible way, part of me still thought maybe all of this was my fault. Maybe if I had done this, if I had tried harder at that. I blamed myself for so many things. My therapist helped me see through this, explaining that while I could have done some things differently, in the end, I cannot be held responsible for the choices she made, and no one deserves to be betrayed the way I was if I'm guilty of anything. It's for blaming myself for everything, always putting her needs before my own, and trusting her unconditionally, without question. While it was extremely difficult for me to balance work and care for the kids alone, every time she went on one of these trips, I always let her go after convincing myself that I was doing it for her, to support her business, to let her relieve the stress of being at home. This is what a supportive husband would do, and that if maybe I had a better job or made her happier, she wouldn't feel the need to escape from home. I would be lying if I said I'm no longer depressed, but I'm definitely much better lately. These days, I feel more anger than sadness, and it's the anger that keeps me going. My therapist advised me to channel this anger into the things I do, and it has surprisingly worked well. I've spoken to 2 law firms about my situation and was advised to gather more evidence, something I've been focused on in recent weeks. I finished digitizing all her journals from the past 2 years, which was a lot. I gained access to her computer and found numerous photos, conversations, and documents to help my case. She's been posting all her adventures in a very twisted private group on Facebook, from which I've also taken many screenshots. I compiled a list of all her intimate partners from the journals and identified each one on social media, etc. I gathered everything I could about her current intimate partners and managed to find out where they live and work. Now I'm debating whether to confront them or not. The things I read in these journals are so bizarre that I thought she might just be writing material for some kind of twisted romance novel, until I found everything else on her computer, etc. Maybe I'm broken too, but a part of me is actually enjoying this process of gathering all these little pieces of evidence and information, cross-referencing them with her journals, and discovering everything I can about her and her lovers. Part of me wants to see her burn on social media by directly posting everything I've discovered as a big big part of her business centers around social media, but I'm refraining from doing so since it would also affect me and the kids, as well as her parents, who have been nothing kind to me since we got married. I'm also unsure if I should bring this to her parents' attention, as it would likely devastate them. I'm planning to confront her after talking more with the attorneys about how to secure custody of my kids. The country I live in tends to unfairly favor mothers in custody cases, even when they are unfit, set the terms of the divorce, and establish alimony. Anyway, thank you all for the advice. A few weeks ago, I was in complete despair and had no idea what to do or how to approach the situation. Nowadays, I feel like I'm slowly climbing out of the pit I was thrown into. Apologies if I don't respond to all your comments. Right now, my full focus is on protecting my children.
Do not confront her. Don't let her know anything until you have everything in order. Don't post anything on social media. Don't confront any of her lovers. Just keep doing what you're doing. Let her find out when she's served. Keep me updated.
You're not obligated to let her know everything you have. What I would do, I know it's easy for me to say because I'm not going through this, is, since you mentioned you're actually enjoying the process of going through the evidence, identify which part of her story was most likely for you to discover on your own. Use that with her when you're filing for divorce, and don't let her know that you're aware of the rest of her affairs. I hope divorce reaches a point where she has to publicly state what you revealed was the only affair she had. Then, since she lied, you have some leverage to make her back down on the custody issue.
Am I the jerk for confronting my sister about an affair with my husband based on what our mom told me? My husband is cheating on me. I know for sure. He's doing all the things an unfaithful spouse would do. He turned off location tracking, ignores me, stays out late with work friends, and has an excuse for everything. I know what this is. I don't know with whom, but I know he is. I talked to my mom about it. She mentioned how my sister has been acting the same way. I have two sisters, one who is married with children, Ray, and another who is in her first year of college and still lives at home, Emma. Mom says Emma has been doing the same things as my husband and has been doing it around the same time. Emma and my husband have always gotten along well, but looking back now, seems they got along a little too well. My husband and I are expecting our first child. It was a good marriage until a few months ago, and things started getting rough. Then this happened. I confronted my sister this morning. She denied everything and called me an insecure jerk just for even suggesting it. I told her mom told me. Now my mom is upset because I threw her under the bus. Ray wants nothing to do with this mess. Am I the jerk? Update. It's late where we live now. My husband hasn't come home. He didn't pick up his phone. I've sent multiple messages, and I know he's read them, but he's not answering. I was going to talk to him about this when he got home, but he still hasn't returned. I don't know if he's coming back. As I mentioned in an earlier comment, I'm 37 weeks pregnant. I have preeclampsia, and I'm trying to stay calm. For everyone who suggested hiring a detective, I've been on unpaid leave for the last month due to my blood pressure complications. I don't have money for anything outside of what I need for this baby. All my savings are going toward my children's future and any potential medical bills. The detective isn't in the budget. Those saying I jump to conclusions but are also telling me to divorce. Isn't divorce also jumping to conclusions? Divorce isn't in the budget right now either. I know how much lawyers cost. I'll keep everyone updated. I'll post in the morning. Thank you all. Update 2. My life is completely turned upside down. It's been over 24 hours since I confronted my younger sister, Emma, about an affair with my husband. I was 100% sure my husband was cheating with her based on what our mom told me yesterday. Turns out I was wrong. My husband didn't come home last night. I know he's read my texts because they're marked as read, but he's ignoring all my calls. I had no idea where he was. I slept for maybe 2 hours last night, purely out of exhaustion. This morning, I woke up to my older sister, Ray, calling. She lives 5 houses down from our parents. Ray is a stay-at-home mom. Ray started by apologizing over and over, which only made me more nervous. And when I pressed her, she said she was sorry for not telling me sooner that she knew for sure my husband was cheating with our mom. I barely remember what was said due to the shock. I'm trying my best to write it down to remember for the future. Ray said this has been going on for a few months, so it would have been before my husband and I actually got married. She explained that Emma would go out for evening classes or to hang out with friends. About 20 minutes later, my husband would arrive at my parents' house. He'd stay there for an hour or two and then leave before Emma returned. Ray said this happened several nights a week now, whenever Emma and our dad were away. Her dad works long shifts at night, so he wouldn't know. We think mom likely has location tracking on Emma, which is how they knew where she was. We're not sure if Emma has turned that off by now. Emma is obviously upset with me, so I can't ask her. The most damning thing is that mom went out last night and didn't come back until early morning before dad returned from work. Ray texted her to ask if everything was okay. Mom replied that a friend was sick and needed comfort. Emma also didn't come home last night. That's likely because she's hurt and needed to be with friends. I'll apologize to her, but I can't without telling her what's going on. Ray keeps apologizing, saying she just didn't want to get involved and that it wasn't her business. She also called me a jerk for confronting Emma and said by doing so, tearing the family apart. She's forbidden me from telling dad and says she'll never forgive me if I do. I feel dad has the right to know. I know how it feels to have someone do this to you and then have the truth withheld. I'm not saying anything until I have concrete evidence because I've learned my lesson. Would I be the jerk if I told dad and Emma what's happening? Day 3. I've had nothing but time to think. I've been alone at home, reading comments and thinking about how to proceed. I'm overwhelmed and exhausted inside and out, too tired to freak out anymore. My future ex-husband called. He sounded drunk and hungover, slurring his words and repeating himself. He said he was sorry, that he's trash, that he loves me, and that he's coming home. He turned his location back on and did a check-in, so I know he's on the highway heading toward my house, but I don't know where he's been. Our mom has been oddly silent. Ray apologized again by text. I don't care anymore. I haven't talked to Dad or Emma. I won't until I have something concrete. I don't want to be that person again. To respond to some comments, Ray uses our mom to babysit her kids. This is probably why she doesn't want to rock boat. Actually, it's the reason. This isn't the first time our mom has cheated on Dad. I remember when I was about 11, they separated for a while. It was traumatic for all of us. I have an appointment with my OB later this week to discuss induction. My pregnancy blood pressure has been fluctuating between 155/87 and 145/80. Swelling has worsened. I'm monitoring both my and the baby's health. For those who assumed the cul-de-sac was a trailer park, I laugh. Might as well be now. I'm sure I need his consent to record him. I'll figure out how to do that when he gets home. I have ideas on how to handle this. Trying to be smarter about it. I'll update again, though it might not be soon. You'll get one. You all are helping me sort my stuff out.
It sounds like you're in an incredibly tough situation. Don't feel guilty for wanting to protect yourself, and consider telling your dad the truth, especially if it affects him as well. Your sister's and mom's actions have created a complicated web of betrayal, and it's understandable that you want to confront the situation head-on. Just be sure to gather concrete evidence before approaching anyone, as this will help you communicate clearly and avoid further misunderstandings. Prioritize your own emotional well-being as you navigate through this.
This is the only concrete, actionable point the OP has to separate from and divorce her husband. Not that she even needs one. Everything else is just suspicion and rumor. Please focus on your health the next month, have a healthy baby, and recover. Your awful relatives and husband will still be there to deal with when you and your child's health are no longer at risk. I know it's easier said than done, but for a safe delivery, it's crucial to keep your stress at a manageable level.